When steel crushes bone and glass cuts deep, some men run toward the screaming, others run away. Ethan Cole did both. The construction worker who pulled a dying CEO from twisted metal didn't wait for cameras, didn't ask for thanks. He just disappeared. But Victoria Sterling doesn't forget debts. She built an empire by owning everything she touches, controlling everyone who matters. Now she's hunting the one man who wants nothing from her. This is what happens when power meets principle, when two worlds collide so hard they either shatter or remake each other completely. Drop a comment with your city below so I can see how far this story travels. You won't believe where this goes. The smell hit Ethan Cole before the sound did. Gasoline. Hot metal. Something electrical burning underneath it all. Acrid and wrong. He'd been walking past the intersection of 7th and Morrison, lunch pail swinging against his leg, when the delivery truck ran the red light. Didn't even slow down. The black Mercedes never stood a chance. The impact sent it spinning like a top. 3 full rotations before it slammed into the concrete barrier hard enough to fold the front end like an accordion. The windows didn't shatter so much as explode outward in a crystal spray that caught the morning sun and turned the whole scene into something almost beautiful for half a second. Then the screaming started. Ethan stopped. His work boots ground against the sidewalk, leaving black marks. Around him, people were already pulling out phones, backing away, doing that thing humans do when catastrophe happens. They watch. They record. They wait for someone else to do something. The Mercedes was upside down now, driver's side crushed against the barrier. Smoke was curling up from underneath, thin wisps that would get thicker soon. The delivery truck had kept going, disappeared around the corner, trailing sparks and the shriek of a destroyed axle. Ethan looked at his watch. 7:43 a.m. Maya's school started at 8:15. He'd promised her pancakes this morning, the good ones with the chocolate chips arranged in a smiley face. She'd been talking about it since yesterday. The smoke was getting darker. "Somebody call 911!" A woman's voice, high and tight. "Oh my God, somebody do something!" Ethan set down his lunch pail. Carefully, like he had all the time in the world. His hands didn't shake. They never did. 12 years in construction had taught him that panic was just wasted motion, and wasted motion got people killed. He walked toward the car. Hey man, you shouldn't..." Some guy in a suit, probably late for whatever important meeting made him important. Ethan walked past him. The driver's side was completely inaccessible, crushed between the barrier and what used to be the roof, but the passenger side was facing up, sort of. The window was gone. Ethan could see movement inside, whoever it was still alive, still fighting. He knelt down, glass crunching under his knees. The smell was worse here. Gasoline was pooling underneath, running in a small river toward the storm drain. Not good. Very not good. "Can you hear me?" Ethan's voice was calm, the same tone he used when Maya woke up from nightmares. "I need you to talk to me." A sound from inside. Not quite words, more like a gasp shaped into something that wanted to be language. Ethan looked closer. A woman. 40-something, dark hair matted with blood, expensive suit torn and twisted around her. She was hanging from the seatbelt, upside down, one arm bent at an angle that made his stomach clench. Her eyes found his. Dark eyes, wide with pain and fear, and something else. Fury, maybe. Like she was pissed off that this was happening to her. "Okay," Ethan said. "Okay, we're going to get you out, but I need you to stay still. Can you do that?" She tried to nod, failed, made a sound that might have been yes. The smoke was definitely thicker now. Ethan could hear sirens in the distance, but distance meant time, and time meant fire. Simple math. He reached through the window frame, feeling for the seatbelt release. His hand came back bloody. Somewhere in the tangle of metal and plastic, something was cutting into her. The seatbelt release was jammed or broken, or just positioned wrong because the whole car was upside down and physics was working against them. "This is gonna hurt," Ethan said. "I'm sorry." He didn't wait for an answer. Couldn't. The smoke was black now, rolling up in thick clouds that meant the fire was finding fuel. He grabbed her, one hand under her shoulders, the other trying to support her head, and pulled. The woman screamed. It was the kind of scream that meant something was breaking, tearing, wrong. Ethan's jaw tightened, but he didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The seatbelt wasn't releasing and there wasn't time for gentle, wasn't time for careful. The knife on his belt, every construction worker carried one, was in his hand before he'd consciously decided to grab it. He sawed through the seatbelt in 3 hard strokes, and suddenly she was falling, and he was catching her, and they were both tumbling backward onto the glass-covered asphalt. The flames came up 30 seconds later. Small at first, just a flicker underneath the chassis. Then bigger. Then everywhere. Ethan dragged her away from the car, not stopping until they were on the far side of the street. His back hit a storefront window, and he half sat, half collapsed. The woman sprawled across him, her breathing ragged and wet-sounding. People were swarming now. The ones who'd been frozen were suddenly moving, shouting, reaching for them. Hands everywhere, voices overlapping. "Don't move her! You're not supposed to move her!" "Is she breathing? Oh God, is she? Somebody get a blanket! Get something!" Ethan looked down at the woman. Blood on her face, on her suit, probably broken ribs from the way she was breathing, but her eyes were open, still furious, still alive. "You're okay," he told her. Lying, but it was the kind of lie that mattered. "Ambulance is coming. You're okay." Her lips moved, trying to say something. He leaned closer. "Who?" Her voice was barely there, shredded. "Who are you?" Ethan didn't answer. Couldn't really, because what was he supposed to say? The sirens were close now, probably just a block away. The crowd was getting thicker, tighter, everyone pressing in to see, to help, to get their video footage for social media. He looked at his watch again. 7:51. Maya. He eased the woman down, gentle as he could, making sure her head was supported by someone's wadded-up jacket that had appeared from somewhere. She tried to grab his wrist, but her hand was weak, fingers barely closing. "Wait," she managed. "Wait, I need—" But Ethan was already standing, already moving. The crowd swallowed him in half a second, just another body in the chaos. By the time the ambulance pulled up, lights strobing red and white across the storefronts, he was gone. Maya was mad about the pancakes. "You promised," she said from the back seat, her voice doing that thing where it went up at the end. Not quite whining, but close. "You said we'd do the smiley face ones." "I know, baby." Ethan checked his mirrors, changed lanes. Something came up. "We'll do them tomorrow, okay?" "That's what you said yesterday." Had he? Ethan tried to remember. The days blurred together sometimes, early shifts bleeding into late ones, Maya's schedule written on the calendar that hung on their fridge. Soccer practice Tuesdays and Thursdays, reading group on Wednesdays, that thing at the library on Saturdays that she loved, but he could never remember the name of. "This weekend," he said. Saturday morning. "Chocolate chip smiley faces, and we'll watch that movie you wanted, the one with the singing." "They all have singing, Dad." "Then whichever one has the most singing." He could see her in the rear view, fighting not to smile. 6 years old and already better at staying mad than he'd ever been. She got that from her mother. The stubbornness, the way she could hold a grudge over something small until you wanted to laugh and apologize at the same time. "Your shirt's dirty," Maya said. Ethan glanced down. Right. Blood on his sleeve, dust, and something that might have been motor oil across his chest. He'd thrown his jacket on over it, but apparently that wasn't enough to fool a 6-year-old. "Work stuff," he said. "Had to help move some equipment." "It smells weird." "Yeah, well, work smells weird sometimes." "You ready for school?" "I guess." She kicked the back of his seat, not hard, just enough to be annoying. "Jenny's bringing cupcakes for her birthday. The good kind from the bakery." "That's nice. Can I bring cupcakes for my birthday?" "Your birthday's 6 months away." "So, I'm planning ahead. Miss Patterson says planning ahead is important." Ms. Patterson was her teacher, a woman in her 50s who sent home weekly newsletters about classroom activities and reminders about healthy snacks. Ethan had met her twice. She seemed nice, tired, but nice. "We'll talk about it," Ethan said, which was parent code for probably yes, but I need you to forget you asked for a while. The school was coming up on the left. Ridgemont Elementary, a low brick building with a playground that had seen better days. The drop-off line was already forming, minivans and SUVs packed with kids and parents who looked like they'd had more coffee than sleep. Ethan pulled up to the curb. Maya already had her backpack on, one strap hanging off her shoulder the way he'd told her not to wear it 100 times. "Both straps," he said. She sighed like he'd asked her to solve calculus, but fixed it. "Love you, Dad." "Love you too, baby. Have a good day." She was out of the car before he finished the sentence, running toward a group of kids by the front entrance. Someone shouted her name, probably Jenny of the birthday cupcakes, and Maya was laughing, folding into the group like she'd always been there. Ethan watched until she disappeared inside. Then he sat there for another minute, engine idling, hands on the steering wheel. His phone buzzed. Text from Tommy. "Where you at?" Hendricks is asking. "Right. Work." The reason he had a blood-stained shirt and was late dropping Maya off and would probably catch hell from his supervisor for missing the morning briefing. He put the car in drive and pulled away from the school, watching it shrink in his rearview mirror until it was just another building in a city full of them. The construction site was chaos by the time Ethan arrived. Not the fun kind of chaos, the organized noise of heavy machinery and shouted instructions. This was different, tight, tense, the kind of atmosphere that came with inspectors or deadlines or someone important showing up unannounced. Ethan parked his truck in the muddy lot, grabbed his hard hat from the passenger seat, and headed toward the trailer that served as the site office. Tommy intercepted him halfway there. "Where the hell were you?" Tommy was Ethan's age but looked older, weathered by cigarettes and sun damage. They'd worked together for 8 years, close enough to be friends but not quite close enough to be anything more. "Hendricks is losing his mind." "Maya stuff," Ethan said, which was true enough. "What's going on?" "Inspection got moved up. They're here now, going through everything. You know that support beam on the 3rd floor? The one we've been arguing about?" "Tama tishmisi." Ethan knew. Everyone knew. The beam was fine. He'd checked it himself twice. But the original specs called for a different load distribution, and now it was a whole thing with engineering reports and revised blueprints and people in suits making decisions about things they'd never have to physically touch. "They red tag it?" Ethan asked. "Not yet. But they're up there now with Hendricks, and he's doing that thing where he gets all sweaty and starts agreeing with everything they say." Boy. Perfect. Ethan adjusted his hard hat and started toward the main structure. The building was going to be an office complex when it was done, 12 stories of glass and steel that would house tech companies or law firms or whatever kind of business paid the rent on buildings like this. Right now it was just skeleton and promise, rebar and concrete, and the constant smell of sawdust. He found Hendricks on the 3rd floor surrounded by 3 people in clean hard hats and clipboards. The inspectors. Hendricks saw Ethan and his face did something complicated. Relief and irritation fighting for control. "Cole?" Hendricks' voice was tight. "Good of you to join us." "Sorry, sir. Had a situation this morning." "We all have situations, Cole. Some of us managed to show up on time anyway." Hendricks turned back to the inspectors, his smile forced and painful looking. "This is Ethan Cole, one of our senior guys. He can walk you through the structural work if you have questions." The lead inspector was a woman, maybe 35, with sharp eyes and a permanent expression like she'd smelled something bad. "The beam we're concerned about is the primary lateral support, correct?" Ethan nodded. "Yes, ma'am. But the load calculations, I've seen the calculations, Mr. Cole. What I'm concerned about is the deviation from the approved plans." Here we go. Ethan had been in construction long enough to know how this dance went. The plan said one thing, reality said another, and somewhere in the middle was where actual buildings got built. But inspectors lived in a world of paperwork and liability, where deviations were problems and problems were failures. The deviation, Ethan said carefully, was approved by engineering. We have the revised specs. Dated 3 weeks after installation began, the inspector cut in, which suggests the work was performed before approval was granted. Hendricks made a sound like a strangled cat. "Now, I'm sure there was just some paperwork confusion. The beam is sound," Ethan said, not raising his voice, not getting defensive, just stating facts. "I can show you the load tests, the material certs, everything. It meets code. It exceeds code." The inspector looked at him, really looked, like she was seeing him for the first time. "You installed this beam, Mr. Cole?" Yes, ma'am. Me and my crew. And you're confident in your work? Yes, ma'am. The silence stretched. Somewhere below them, a nail gun fired off a rapid burst. Someone shouted something about measurements. Normal work sounds from a world that was continuing whether this conversation ended well or not. Fine, the inspector said finally. I want full documentation by end of day, load tests, material certifications, engineering sign-off, everything. If it checks out, we'll move forward. If it doesn't... She left the threat hanging. Hendricks was nodding so hard his hard hat wobbled. Absolutely. Yes. End of day. Cole will handle it personally. Won't you, Cole? Yes, sir. The inspectors left, their clean boots barely making a sound on the concrete. Hendricks waited until they were out of earshot, then rounded on Ethan. Where were you? I told you. I don't care about your situation, Cole. I care about my ass, which is currently on the line because you couldn't be bothered to show up for the most important inspection of the quarter. Ethan said nothing. There wasn't anything to say. Hendricks was right. Not about the importance of Ethan's morning, but about the optics. About how it looked when the senior guy didn't show up for the dog and pony show. You're a good worker, Hendricks continued, his voice dropping. Maybe the best I've got. But good doesn't mean irreplaceable. You understand? I've got 20 guys who'd kill for your position. Guys who show up on time. Guys who don't have excuses. It won't happen again, Ethan said. It better not. Now get me that documentation. I want it perfect, Cole. Not good. Perfect. Ethan nodded and headed for the stairs. His phone buzzed again. Another text, this one from a number he didn't recognize. We need to speak. It's about this morning. V.S. He deleted it without reading it twice and got to work. What? The documentation took 6 hours. 6 hours of pulling reports, cross-referencing material certifications, tracking down engineering sign-offs that should have been filed but weren't because someone in the office had screwed up the paperwork flow. By the time Ethan had everything compiled and double-checked, his eyes hurt and his back was screaming from being hunched over a desk that was 6 inches too low. He dropped the folder on Hendricks' desk at 4:47 p.m., 13 minutes before end of business. Hendricks flipped through it, grunted something that might have been approval, and waved him off. Ethan collected Maya from after-school care at 5:15. She was in a better mood, high on sugar from birthday cupcakes and whatever game they'd played at recess. She talked the entire drive home about nothing and everything. Jenny's party plans, the book they were reading in class, some complicated drama involving who got to be line leader. Their apartment was on the 3rd floor of a building that had been nice about 20 years ago. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen with appliances that worked most of the time. The landlord kept promising to fix the water pressure. Ethan had stopped holding his breath. He made dinner while Maya did homework at the kitchen table. Spaghetti, the easy kind from a jar, with frozen meatballs that weren't terrible if you didn't think too hard about what was in them. They ate in front of the TV, watching some cartoon about magical animals that Ethan couldn't follow, but Maya loved. Bath time. Story time. The usual negotiations about 1 more chapter, 1 more glass of water, 1 more minute of staying up. By the time Ethan got Maya into bed, it was 8:30 and he was running on fumes. Dad? Her voice was small in the dark room. Yeah, baby? Are you mad at me? About the pancakes? Ethan sat on the edge of her bed, finding her hand under the blanket. No, never. You didn't do anything wrong. Then why do you look sad? Kids saw too much. That was the problem. Adults got good at hiding things, at putting on faces that said everything was fine when nothing was fine. But kids looked right through it. Just tired, Ethan said. Long day. You have a lot of long days. Yeah, I guess I do. She squeezed his hand. I love you anyway. Something cracked in Ethan's chest, just a little. Love you too, Maya. So much. He sat there until her breathing evened out, until he was sure she was actually asleep and not just pretending so she could sneak her flashlight and read under the covers. Then he eased out of her room, pulling the door mostly closed. His phone was on the kitchen counter where he'd left it. 7 missed calls. 4 more texts from the unknown number. Against his better judgment, he opened the messages. Mr. Cole, I know who you are. I need to speak with you. It's important. Please don't ignore this. I want to thank you properly. I'm not going away. Victoria Sterling. The name meant nothing to him. Should it? Ethan tried to place it, came up empty. Probably someone from the accident, someone who'd gotten his information from… Where? How did people even do that? He deleted the messages and blocked the number. Tomorrow he'd have forgotten about it. Tomorrow would be another day of work and Maya and the small, careful life they'd built. Whatever Victoria Sterling wanted, whoever she was, it didn't matter. Ethan took a shower, standing under the weak spray until the hot water ran out. Then he fell into bed and was asleep in less than a minute, dreamless and deep, the sleep of someone who'd earned it. The news played on someone else's TV that night, footage of the accident at 7th and Morrison. A black Mercedes, a dramatic rescue, a mystery man who'd disappeared. The CEO of Sterling Enterprises, Victoria Sterling, had been pulled from the wreckage by an unidentified civilian who fled the scene before first responders arrived. Authorities were asking anyone with information to come forward. Ethan didn't see it. He was asleep, and in the morning there would be pancakes to make and a promise to keep, and work, and Maya, and the same careful routine that kept them both moving forward. The phone call came 3 days later. Ethan was on the 4th floor when his phone rang. Number he didn't recognize, but not the blocked one from before. Different area code. He almost didn't answer, but something made him hit the green button. "This is Ethan. Mr. Cole," a woman's voice. "Professional? Cool. My name is Victoria Sterling. We met on Tuesday morning, 7th and Morrison." Ethan's grip on his phone tightened. Around him, work continued, the hammer strikes, the shouts, the grind of machinery. "How did you get this number? Does it matter?" A pause. "I wanted to thank you." "You don't need to." "Actually, I do. You saved my life, Mr. Cole. That's not something I take lightly." "Glad you're okay." Ethan started walking toward the stairs, away from the noise. "But you really don't need to." "I'd like to meet with you. Coffee or lunch, whatever works. I insist." "That's not necessary." "Mr. Cole." Her voice changed, got sharper. "I'm not accustomed to being told no." "Okay." Ethan stopped at the stairwell. "Then get accustomed. I don't want anything from you. I helped because someone needed help. That's it." Silence on the other end. Long enough that Ethan thought she'd hung up. Then, "You have a daughter." Every muscle in Ethan's body went tight. "Excuse me?" "Maya, 6 years old, goes to Ridgemont Elementary." Victoria's voice was completely neutral now, just stating facts. "I'm not threatening her, Mr. Cole. I'm making a point. I have resources. I find what I'm looking for. And right now, I'm looking to have a conversation with you. 10 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Ethan's jaw ached from how hard he was clenching it. "You need to leave my daughter out of this." "Then meet with me. Today. 5 o'clock. There's a coffee shop on 3rd and Madison. The Grind. I'll be there." She hung up before he could respond. Ethan stood in the stairwell, phone still pressed to his ear, listening to dead air. His heart was pounding, adrenaline dumping into his system like he was back at the accident, back in that moment where everything went wrong fast. She'd found Maya, knew where she went to school. And yeah, maybe it wasn't a threat, probably wasn't a threat. But the fact that she could make that leap, from pulling someone out of a car to tracking down his kid, that was power. Real power. The kind that didn't ask permission. Tommy appeared in the stairwell, looking concerned. "You good, man? You look like you're about to punch something." "I'm fine," Ethan said. Not true, but saying it anyway. "Just need to make a quick stop after work. Can you cover for me if Hendricks asks?" "Yeah, sure. Everything okay?" "Yeah, everything's fine." Another lie. But Ethan was getting good at those. The Grind was the kind of coffee shop that charged $6 for a latte and called it artisanal. Exposed brick, reclaimed wood tables, baristas with handlebar mustaches, and opinions about bean origins. Ethan stood outside for a minute, watching through the window. Victoria Sterling sat at a corner table, laptop open, phone in hand. Even from outside, he could tell she was expensive. Tailored suit, hair perfect, The kind of posture that came from never doubting you belonged wherever you were. She looked up, saw him through the glass, and gestured to the empty chair across from her. Ethan went inside. Up close, she looked tired. There were bruises on her face that makeup mostly covered, and when she moved to close her laptop, he saw the brace on her left wrist. But her eyes were sharp, assessing him like he was a quarterly report that needed analysis. "Mr. Cole, thank you for coming. You didn't give me much choice." Ethan stayed standing. "I've got 15 minutes. My daughter's expecting me." "Then I'll be brief." Victoria gestured to the chair again. "Please, sit." He did, but kept his jacket on, ready to leave. She noticed, and something that might have been amusement flickered across her face. "You're angry," she said. "You brought up my daughter. Yeah, I'm angry." "I apologize for that. It was—" She paused, seeming to actually think about her words. "Overly aggressive. I'm used to negotiations, Mr. Cole. Used to leverage. Sometimes I forget not everything is a transaction." "This isn't a transaction at all." "No?" She leaned back, wincing slightly. "Then what is it?" "Nothing. It's nothing. I helped you. You're okay. We're done." "Are we?" Victoria's gaze was steady. "Because I'm not done. I owe you a debt, Mr. Cole. I pay my debts. You don't owe me anything. 3 broken ribs, fractured wrist, concussion, and a lacerated spleen that required surgery." Her voice was matter-of-fact, listing injuries like items on a shopping list. "The doctor said without immediate intervention, I would have bled out internally within the hour. You didn't just help me. You kept me alive. So yes, Mr. Cole, I owe you, and I always pay what I owe." Ethan looked at her, really looked, saw the control, the precision, the woman who'd built her life on being in charge, and wasn't about to let something as inconvenient as gratitude make her vulnerable. "What do you want?" he asked. "To thank you, properly." "You just did." "No, I thanked you with words. Words are cheap. I'm talking about something tangible. A reward." "I don't want a reward. Everyone wants something, Mr. Cole. Not from you." That landed. He saw it in the way her expression tightened just for a second, like he'd said something genuinely surprising. "Why not?" she asked. "Because I didn't pull you out of that car to get something from you. I did it because it needed doing." Ethan stood. "I'm glad you're okay, Miss Sterling. Really. But we're done here." He made it 3 steps before she spoke again. "I could offer you a job." Ethan stopped, didn't turn around. "Sterling Enterprises is developing a new complex," Victoria continued. 30 stories, mixed use, residential and commercial. We'll need construction oversight. Someone good, someone I can trust. You don't know me. I know you pulled me out of a burning car. I know you didn't stick around for praise. I know you showed up to work late, probably caught hell for it, and didn't mention why." She paused. "I know you have a 6-year-old daughter and you're raising her alone. That tells me everything I need to know about priorities." Ethan turned around. "How much do you know about me?" "Enough. Background check, work history, financials. Nothing invasive, just due diligence." "Due diligence?" Ethan's laugh was sharp. "You ran a background check on me because I helped you." I run background checks on everyone I do business with. We're not doing business. Not yet." Victoria stood, slower than him, favoring her left side. "The position pays twice what you're making now. Full benefits, education trust for Maya, performance bonuses. You'd be overseeing the entire build, managing crews, interfacing with architects and engineers. Real responsibility, Mr. Cole. Real opportunity." It was a good offer, better than good. The kind of opportunity that didn't come along more than once in a career, if that. Ethan thought about Maya's birthday cupcakes, about the water pressure that never got fixed, about the future he was trying to build one paycheck at a time. "No," he said. Victoria blinked. "No?" "No, I appreciate the offer, but no." "You're turning down—" "I know what I'm turning down. Answer's still no." Ethan headed for the door. "Have a good life, Ms. Sterling." This time he didn't stop. Walked out of the grind, out into the evening air that smelled like rain and exhaust. His hands were shaking. He shoved them in his pockets and started walking. Behind him, through the window, Victoria Sterling watched him go. Her phone was already in her hand, already dialing. "Richard," she said when someone answered, "I need a full workup on Ethan Cole. Everything. Family, financials, social connections, medical history, everything. And I want to know why a construction worker with a 6-year-old daughter and a mortgage he can barely afford just turned down a $250,000 salary." She hung up and sat back down, staring at her laptop without seeing it. Nobody said no to her. Nobody. Which meant Ethan Cole was either stupid, stubborn, or hiding something. Victoria intended to find out which. The flowers arrived on Thursday, not a small bouquet. A delivery that required 2 people to carry it into the construction site office. An explosion of white roses and lilies arranged in a crystal vase that probably cost more than Ethan's monthly rent. The card was simple, typed on heavy stock paper that felt expensive between his fingers. "Thank you." V.S. Hendricks saw them first. "Cole, you got a secret admirer or something." "Something like that." Ethan crumpled the card and tossed it in the trash. "Can you have someone get rid of these?" "Get rid of them? Those are—" Hendricks looked at the arrangement like it might bite him. "Those are easily $500 worth of flowers." "I don't care. I don't want them here." But Hendricks was already pulling the card from the trash, smoothing it out. His eyebrows went up when he saw the initials. V.S. Victoria Sterling? The Victoria Sterling? You know her? Know her? Cole, she owns half the commercial development in this city. Sterling Enterprises built the Meridian Tower, the Riverside Complex, that new residential high-rise on 8th. She's— Hendricks stopped, looked at Ethan like he'd grown a second head. "How do you know Victoria Sterling?" "I don't. Not really. But she's sending you $500 flower arrangements, which I'm asking you to get rid of." Hendricks set the card down carefully, like it was evidence. "Cole, I don't know what's going on here, but if you've got some kind of connection to Sterling Enterprises, you need to tell me. We've been trying to get a meeting with their development team for 6 months. If you can make an introduction—" "I can't." Ethan grabbed his hard hat. "And I won't. The flowers go, Hendricks. I don't care where, just not here." He left before Hendricks could argue, heading up to the 5th floor where his crew was waiting. Tommy took one look at his face and wisely said nothing. The flowers were gone by lunch, but they came back on Friday. Different arrangement, same message. This time they were delivered to his apartment building. The super knocked on his door at 6:30 in the morning, holding another crystal vase, looking annoyed. "These were in the lobby. Tag says 3B. That you?" Ethan took them because refusing would have required explanation. He brought them inside, set them on the kitchen counter, and stared at them while his coffee brewed. Maya wandered out in her pajamas, rubbing sleep from her eyes. "Whoa, did you get those for me?" "No, baby. Someone sent them." "Who?" "Good question." Ethan didn't have a good answer. "Just someone I helped. They're saying thank you." Maya climbed onto a stool, reaching out to touch the petals. "They're really pretty. Can I keep them in my room?" "Sure." She beamed, already trying to lift the vase. It was too heavy. Ethan helped her carry it, watching as she positioned it on her dresser, rearranging the stems until they looked right to her 6-year-old eye. "There," she announced. "Perfect." Nothing about this was perfect, but Ethan kissed the top of her head and went to make pancakes, the ones he'd promised, with chocolate chips arranged in a smiley face that made Maya laugh. His phone buzzed while they were eating. Another text from another unknown number. "Mr. Cole, I understand you don't want anything from me. I respect that, but I'd appreciate the opportunity to apologize in person for overstepping earlier this week. Tomorrow, 2 p.m., Riverside Park. I'll be on the bench by the fountain. If you don't show, I won't contact you again. V.S." Ethan deleted it, then undeleted it, then read it 3 more times while Maya chattered about her weekend plans, something involving a friend's house and a pool party if the weather held. Saturday at 2 p.m., he was supposed to take Maya to the library. Story time, followed by the craft activity she looked forward to all week. They had a routine. Routines were important, but Victoria Sterling knew where he lived now, where Maya went to school, and she clearly wasn't someone who gave up easily. One meeting, just to make it clear, face to face, that this had to stop. That's what he told himself, anyway. The library trip got moved to Sunday. Maya didn't complain. The pool party won out, and Ethan spent Saturday morning making sure she had sunscreen and a towel, and the floaties she insisted she didn't need anymore, but he packed anyway. He dropped her at Jenny's house at noon, spent 20 minutes talking to Jenny's mom about pickup times and snacks, and whether Maya could stay for dinner if the girls were having fun. Then he drove to Riverside Park, arriving 15 minutes early because showing up late felt like giving ground somehow. The park was busy. Families spread on blankets, kids on the playground, joggers doing their loops around the path. The fountain was in the center, a modern thing with water that shot up in patterns timed to music only the designer could hear. Victoria Sterling sat on a bench facing it, wearing jeans and a white blouse, her hair pulled back. No suit, no power armor. She looked almost normal. Ethan sat down, leaving space between them. "I'm here." "Thank you." Victoria didn't look at him, kept her eyes on the fountain. "I wasn't sure you'd come. Your message said you'd stop contacting me if I didn't. Figured I'd make sure." "Fair." She finally turned to face him. The bruises on her face had faded to yellow-green, still visible under makeup that wasn't quite doing its job. "I owe you an apology. The flowers, the phone calls, looking into your background. All of it. I crossed lines I shouldn't have." "Okay." "Okay?" She seemed surprised. "That's it? What do you want me to say?" "You apologized? I accept. We done?" Victoria's laugh was short, sharp. "You know, most people in your position would be trying to leverage this. The CEO of a major development company owes them a debt. They'd be asking for favors, money, connections. But you just want me to leave you alone." "Yes." "Why?" Ethan watched the fountain. Water climbed, fell, climbed again. "Because I don't need complications. My life is simple. I work, I take care of my daughter, I stay in my lane. Getting tangled up with someone like you, that's how simple becomes complicated real fast. Someone like me. Rich, connected, used to getting what you want." He finally looked at her. "No offense, but you're trouble, and I've got enough of that already." Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Tell me about Maya." "No. I'm just asking, parent to parent. You have kids?" "No." Something shifted in her expression, there and gone too fast to read. "Never found the time. Work always came first, then more work. Then suddenly I'm 43 and wondering where the years went." It was the most honest thing she'd said. Ethan could hear it in her voice, the regret underneath the control. "Maya's 6, he said, surprising himself. "Smart as hell, stubborn, loves reading and swimming, and this terrible cartoon about magical animals. Her mom died when she was 2, car accident, drunk driver ran a red light." "I'm sorry." "Yeah, me too." Ethan's hands were in his lap, fingers laced together. "I was overseas when it happened. Army, deployed in Afghanistan. By the time they got me home, the funeral was already done. I had a 2-year-old daughter who didn't remember me and a wife in the ground. So I got out, got custody, and started figuring out how to be a single dad who didn't know what the hell he was doing. Seems like you figured it out." "Some days. Other days, I'm just trying not to screw her up too bad." He stood. "Anyway, that's my life. Simple, like I said. And I need to keep it that way." "Wait." Victoria stood too, favoring her left side. "Can I ask you something? And I swear, this isn't me trying to manipulate you or leverage anything. I'm just curious." "What?" "Why'd you walk away? From the accident? Most people would have stayed, talked to the paramedics, taken the credit. You just disappeared." Ethan thought about it. About that morning, the smoke and fire, and the woman screaming. About Maya waiting for pancakes and his schedule that didn't have room for being a hero. "Because staying would have made it about me," he said finally. "Made it into something bigger than it was. You needed help. I helped. That's all. The rest of it, the cameras, the news, people calling me brave or whatever. That's just noise. I don't need noise." Victoria looked at him like he was a puzzle she couldn't solve. "You're a strange man, Ethan Cole." "I'm really not. I'm probably the least strange person you know." Maybe that's what makes you strange. She pulled a business card from her pocket, held it out. This has my direct number. Not an assistant, not a secretary. Me. If you ever need anything, and I mean anything, call. No strings, no expectations. Just a favor you can cash in whenever. Ethan didn't take the card. I won't call. I know, but I'm offering anyway. She set it on the bench between them. Thank you, Mr. Cole, for saving my life, and for reminding me that not everyone wants something from me. She walked away, limping slightly, disappearing into the Saturday afternoon crowd. Ethan stood there for another minute, looking at the business card. White stock, embossed lettering. Victoria Sterling, CEO, Sterling Enterprises. The direct line printed below her name. He left it on the bench and went to pick up Maya. But Sunday morning, when he was cleaning out his jacket pockets before laundry, he found the card tucked in the inside pocket. He must have grabbed it without thinking, or maybe Victoria had slipped it in when he wasn't looking. Either way, he threw it in the drawer with the takeout menus and batteries that might be dead, and other things that weren't quite trash but weren't useful either. The flowers stopped. The text stopped. 2 weeks passed with nothing, and Ethan started to think maybe it was actually over. Then Maya got sick. It started small. A cough, nothing serious. Kids got coughs. But this one didn't go away. 3 days turned into 5, 5 into a week. The cough got worse, deeper, rattling in her chest in a way that made Ethan's stomach tight. He took her to the clinic on Saturday morning. The doctor was young, probably fresh out of residency, with the kind of cheerful manner that felt practiced. She listened to Maya's lungs, asked questions about symptoms, took her temperature. Probably just a bad cold, the doctor said. But her oxygen levels are a little low. I'd like to do a chest x-ray just to rule out pneumonia. Pneumonia. The word sat heavy in the room. Okay, Ethan said. Whatever you need to do. The x-ray showed fluid in Maya's lungs. Not a lot, but enough. Pneumonia, like the doctor suspected. They could treat it with antibiotics, the doctor explained. Most kids recovered fine, but Maya would need to be monitored closely. If she got worse, if her breathing became labored, they'd need to admit her. Ethan took the prescription to the pharmacy, waited 20 minutes while they filled it, paid with the credit card he tried not to use. $83. Plus the clinic visit, another $140. His insurance covered some of it, but not enough. He did the math on the drive home. Rent was due in a week, car payment, utilities, food. The numbers didn't work. They never quite worked, but usually he could juggle things, shift money around, make it stretch. This month there wasn't enough stretch. Maya fell asleep in the back seat, her breathing rough and uneven. Ethan carried her upstairs, tucked her into bed, set up the humidifier the doctor recommended. Then he sat at the kitchen table with his laptop and bank account open, looking at numbers that refused to add up right. The business card was still in the drawer. He'd thrown it away twice, fished it out both times. Couldn't explain why. No strings, Victoria had said. No expectations. Ethan believed that about as much as he believed the pharmacy when they said the generic was just as good as the brand name. He closed the laptop and went to check on Maya. Monday, she was worse. Tuesday morning, he called in sick to work, the first time in 3 years. Hendricks wasn't happy, but didn't push it when Ethan explained. Wednesday. Maya's fever spiked to 103.8. Ethan spent the night on the floor next to her bed, changing cold compresses, listening to her breathe, ready to grab his keys and run for the emergency room if things went bad. Thursday, the fever broke. Maya opened her eyes, asked for water, complained that her throat hurt. Ethan nearly cried with relief. Friday, he went back to work. Tommy had covered for him, spreading Ethan's duties across the crew. Nothing had fallen apart, but it was close. Hendricks pulled him aside during lunch, looking uncomfortable. Look, Cole, I get it. Kid's sick. You gotta do what you gotta do. But I need to know you're solid. This job's got deadlines, and we can't have people disappearing for a week. She had pneumonia, Hendricks. What was I supposed to do? I'm not saying you did wrong. I'm saying I need reliability. So if there's going to be more of this, there won't be. Ethan cut him off. She's better. I'm here. We're good. But they weren't good. Hendricks' expression said he didn't quite believe it, and Ethan didn't blame him. Single dad with a sick kid was a liability in construction. Everyone knew it. Nobody said it, but they all thought it. The check from the missed days came Friday afternoon. Smaller than it should have been, with the sick days unpaid. Ethan deposited it and watched his account balance tick up by an amount that still wasn't enough. He picked Maya up from school, took her home, made dinner. She was better, but still tired, still coughing sometimes. The doctor wanted to see her again on Monday, follow-up to make sure the antibiotics were working. Another copay. Another expense. Saturday morning, Maya wanted to go to the park. Just for an hour, she promised. She was feeling so much better and she'd been cooped up all week, and please, Dad, please? Ethan couldn't say no. They went to Riverside, the same park where he'd met Victoria 2 weeks ago. Maya ran for the playground, her energy back if not her full strength. Ethan sat on a bench, not the same one, different section of the park, and watched her climb and swing and laugh with other kids. His phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer. "This is Ethan." "Mr. Cole," Victoria's voice. Of course it was. "I hope I'm not interrupting. How did you get this number? I changed it. I have resources, remember?" A pause. "I heard Maya was sick. I wanted to check in." The anger came fast and hot. "You're keeping tabs on my daughter?" "No." "Well, yes, but not the way you're thinking. I have a Google alert set for your name. There was an insurance claim filed. I put 2 and 2 together." "That's..." Ethan stopped, took a breath. "That's incredibly invasive." "I know. I'm sorry, but I wanted to make sure she was okay." "Is she?" Ethan looked at Maya on the swings, pumping her legs, going higher. "She's fine. We're fine." "Good. That's good." Victoria sounded like she meant it. "And you? How are you holding up? Why do you care?" "Because I do. And before you hang up, I'm not offering money or help or anything you'd find insulting. I'm just asking, one parent to another, even if I'm only pretending to understand what that's like." Something in her voice made Ethan pause. Loneliness, maybe? Or genuine concern, hard to tell. "It was rough," he admitted. "But we got through it. We always do." "You're a good father, Mr. Cole. You don't know that. I know you missed a week of work you couldn't afford to miss. I know you're sitting in a park on a Saturday watching her play instead of catching up on whatever else needs doing. I know enough." Ethan should have hung up. Should have told her to stop calling, stop checking, stop caring about people who weren't her problem. But Maya was laughing, spinning on the merry-go-round with a kid in a red jacket, and Victoria sounded tired in a way he recognized. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Of course." "Why are you doing this, really? It's been 3 weeks. Most people would have sent a thank you card and moved on." Victoria was quiet for so long he thought she'd hung up. Then, "Because you're the first person in 10 years who expected nothing from me." Do you know how rare that is? Everyone wants something. Business partners want deals, employees want promotions, friends, the few I have left, want access or connections. My own board members want me out so they can split my company into pieces and sell it off. But you pulled me out of a burning car and walked away. You turned down a job that would have changed your life. You left my card on a bench in a park. You don't want anything from me, and I don't know what to do with that. The honesty was startling, raw in a way that made Ethan uncomfortable because he recognized it. The isolation. The weight of being the one everyone leaned on while nobody asked if you needed somewhere to lean to. "I should go," he said. "Maya's waiting." "Right, of course. I'm sorry for bothering you." "Victoria." Her name felt strange in his mouth. "You're not bothering me. Exactly. It's just complicated." "I understand complicated." "Yeah, I bet you do." He hung up before either of them could say anything else. Maya was calling him, waving from the top of the slide, wanting him to watch her go down. He waved back, smiled, played the part. But that night, after Maya was asleep and the apartment was quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and someone's TV through the wall, Ethan pulled out Victoria's card again. He didn't call, didn't text, just looked at it, turning it over in his fingers, wondering what it would be like to have that kind of power. To snap your fingers and make problems disappear. To never have to choose between keeping your job and taking care of your kid. The card went back in the drawer, But this time he didn't bury it under the junk. Left it right on top, where he could see it, just in case. The weekend ended. Monday came too fast. Ethan took Maya to the follow-up appointment. The doctor was pleased. Lungs clear, breathing good, antibiotics working. Maya was officially in the clear. The bill was less than expected. When Ethan asked why, the receptionist looked confused, checked her computer, then shrugged. Shows here the balance was covered. Maybe your insurance came through? Ethan's insurance hadn't covered anything extra. He knew exactly how much they paid and how much they didn't. He paid the small copay that remained and took Maya home, suspicion sitting heavy in his gut. The confirmation came that night. Email from the clinic, thanking him for his prompt payment and noting that the anonymous benefactor who'd covered the remaining balance requested no acknowledgement. Ethan called the number on Victoria's card before he could talk himself out of it. She answered on the second ring. Mr. Cole, what did you do? I'm well, thank you for asking. How are you? Just don't. The clinic bill? That was you. I have no idea what you're talking about. Victoria. She sighed. It was a small thing, barely worth mentioning. It was over $400. Like I said, small. Ethan paced his kitchen, trying to keep his voice down so Maya wouldn't hear. I told you I didn't want anything from you. You didn't ask for it. There's a difference. And before you get all proud and insulted, consider that maybe I didn't do it for you. Maybe I did it for Maya. She's 6. She deserves to get better without her father going broke in the process. That's not how this works. How what works? This, whatever this is, you can't just swoop in and fix things. Why not? Victoria's voice sharpened. I have the resources. You need the help. It's simple math. It's not simple. Ethan stopped, tried to figure out what it actually was. It's charity, and I don't need charity. It's not charity, it's a gift from someone who's grateful. There's a difference. Not to me, there isn't. Another long silence. Then Victoria's voice came back quieter. Careful. I overstepped. Again, I seem to keep doing that with you. Yeah, you do. For what it's worth, I was just trying to help. No strings, like I promised. I wasn't expecting anything back. Ethan leaned against the counter, tired in a way that went deeper than the week he'd just survived. I know, and that's the problem. If you wanted something, I could deal with that. I'd know where we stood. But this, you just helping because you can, I don't know what to do with it. You could say thank you. I could. But then what? You pay another bill? Fix my car when it breaks down? Set up a college fund for Maya? Where does it end? Where do you want it to end? The question caught him off guard, made him realize he didn't have an answer. I don't know, he said finally. I just know this doesn't feel right. You in your world, me in mine, and you reaching across to drop money on problems I'm supposed to handle myself. Why are you supposed to handle them yourself? Because they're my problems. And if someone wants to help carry them, then I say no, because I've learned that help always costs something. Maybe not right away, but eventually. There's always a price. Victoria's laugh was bitter. You're not wrong. In my world, that's exactly how it works. But Ethan, and I'm going to call you Ethan because we're past formalities at this point, what if I'm not your world? What if I'm just someone who's grateful and has the means to express it? Then you're naive, and I don't think you're naive. No, she agreed. I'm really not. But maybe I'm trying to be different. Maybe you make me want to be different. That was too much, too honest, the kind of thing that changed conversations into something else entirely. I need to go, Ethan said. Maya's bedtime. Of course. But Ethan, the bill's paid. It's done. You can't unpay it. So just accept it. File it away as a weird thing that happened and move on. Can you do that? He wanted to argue, wanted to demand she take the money back somehow, but she was right. It was done. Fine, he said, but this is the last time. No more bills, no more help, no more fixing things. I mean it. Understood. Last time. A pause. Unless you ask. I won't ask. I know. That's what makes you interesting. She hung up before he could respond. Ethan stood in his kitchen, Phone still pressed to his ear, wondering how his life had gotten this weird. Maya appeared in the doorway, dragging her blanket. Dad, who were you talking to? Nobody, baby. Just work stuff. You sounded mad. I'm not mad, just tired. Come on, let's get you to bed. He read her 2 chapters instead of 1, letting her voice wash over him as she asked questions about the story. By the time she fell asleep, Ethan's anger had faded into something more complicated. Frustration, maybe. Or confusion about why someone like Victoria Sterling gave a damn about someone like him. He pulled out his laptop, typed her name into Google. The search results were endless. Articles about her company, her deals, her reputation as a shark in the development world. Photos from charity galas and business conferences, always the same expression: controlled, confident, untouchable. One article from 6 months ago caught his attention. Sterling Enterprises faces board revolt. He skimmed it. Something about shareholders wanting to push her out, claims that her aggressive expansion was putting the company at risk. The board had called for a vote of no confidence. Victoria had won, but barely. Another article, older: The woman who built an empire, alone. A profile piece about her rise from junior architect to CEO. No mention of family, friends, relationships. Just work. Endless work. Deals and projects and victories measured in square footage and profit margins. The loneliest successful person in the city, one quote called her. Ethan closed the laptop, went to bed, didn't sleep well. Because he was starting to understand something he didn't want to understand. Victoria Sterling wasn't just grateful, she was lonely, and she'd latched onto him because he was the first person in her world who treated her like a human being instead of a commodity. Which meant this wasn't going to end. Not unless he did something to end it. The phone call came on a Tuesday afternoon, 3 weeks after the clinic bill incident. Ethan was on the 7th floor, checking welds with Tommy, when his phone buzzed. Different number this time. He almost ignored it. Ethan Cole. A man's voice, professional, clipped. Yeah, who's this? Richard Chen, Sterling Enterprises. Ms. Sterling asked me to reach out regarding a matter that requires your immediate attention. Ethan stepped away from Tommy, moving toward the stairwell for quiet. I told her no more contact. This isn't about you, Mr. Cole. It's about your daughter. Every muscle in Ethan's body went rigid. What about her? Nothing alarming, I assure you. Ms. Sterling happened to be near Ridgemont Elementary this morning and noticed some concerning safety violations. Deteriorating playground equipment, damaged fencing. She wanted to bring it to your attention as a parent. She was at Maya's school? Purely coincidental. She had a meeting in the area. Richard's tone suggested he didn't believe that any more than Ethan did. In any case, she's prepared to fund the necessary repairs through one of Sterling Enterprises' community outreach programs. No connection to you whatsoever. The school would simply receive a grant. Ethan closed his eyes. Tell her no. Mr. Cole, this benefits dozens of children. Surely you're not going to let pride... Tell her no, and tell her to stay away from my daughter's school. He hung up, stood there breathing hard, anger and something else fighting for space in his chest. The something else felt uncomfortably like fear, because Victoria wasn't backing off. She was circling closer, finding new angles, and every time he pushed her away, she just found another route in. His phone rang again. Victoria's direct line this time. What part of no don't you understand? Ethan didn't bother with hello. GMMs. The part where children are playing on rusted equipment that's one strong wind away from collapse. Victoria's voice was sharp. I saw it with my own eyes, Ethan. That jungle gym is a lawsuit waiting to happen. So call the school board, file a complaint. Don't use it as an excuse to... He stopped. Wait, you were actually at Maya's school? I told you, I had a meeting nearby. There's nothing near Ridgemont but residential neighborhoods and a grocery store. What meeting? Silence. Long enough to confirm what he already knew. You're following me, Ethan said. Following is a strong word. What would you call it? Being invested in your welfare, yours and Maya's. That's not your job, Victoria. We're not your responsibility. No, you're not. But you saved my life. And I can't seem to stop thinking about the fact that you're raising a 6-year-old alone on a construction worker's salary in an apartment with water pressure problems and a furnace that's probably 20 years past its expiration date. So yes, when I'm in the area, I pay attention. Sue me. Ethan's jaw ached from clenching it. How do you know about my furnace? The building permits are public record. Your landlord hasn't updated anything in 15 years. I pulled the maintenance logs. He didn't even have words. That's insane, Victoria. You understand that, right? This whole thing is insane. Is it? Her voice shifted, got quieter. Or is it just someone with resources trying to use them to help people who matter? I don't matter to you. You don't even know me. I know you better than you think. I know you work 50-hour weeks and still make every one of Maya's school events. I know you haven't taken a vacation in 4 years. I know your truck has 160,000 miles on it, and you're hoping it lasts another 2 before the transmission gives out. I know you eat cereal for dinner twice a week, so Maya can have the good groceries. I know you're tired, Ethan. I know you're doing everything right, and it's still barely enough. Each fact landed like a punch. Not because they were wrong, but because they were right. Because she'd seen through every wall he'd built to the exhausted man underneath. Stop, he said. Just stop. You don't get to do this. You don't get to catalog my life like I'm some project you're working on. I'm not. Yes, you are. That's exactly what you're doing. You're trying to fix me, like I'm broken, like I need saving. Everyone needs saving sometimes. Not from you. Not like this. Ethan's hand was shaking. He gripped the phone tighter. I need you to leave me alone, Victoria. Actually alone. No more phone calls. No more showing up at my daughter's school. No more paying bills or fixing problems or whatever the hell you think you're doing. We're done. Completely done. Ethan, I mean it. If you contact me again, if I see you anywhere near Maya, I'm getting a restraining order. I don't care how rich you are or how many lawyers you have. Stay away from us. He hung up. This time when she called back, he didn't answer. Blocked the number. Blocked Richard Chen's number. Blocked every Sterling Enterprises number he could find. Then he went back to work, welding steel like he could burn away the conversation, the anger, the small guilty part of him that wondered if he'd just made a huge mistake. Tommy found him an hour later, still working, sweat running down his face despite the cool October air. You good, man? You've been hitting that same seam for 20 minutes. Ethan pulled off his welding mask. I'm fine. You don't look fine. You look like you want to set something on fire. Just had a bad phone call. Tommy waited, giving him space to elaborate. When Ethan didn't, he shrugged. All right, well, Hendricks wants to see you. Something about the inspection reports. Great. Perfect. Exactly what this day needed. Hendricks was in the site office, surrounded by paperwork that seemed to reproduce when nobody was looking. He gestured Ethan in, didn't bother with pleasantries. We got a problem with the electrical on floors 8 through 10. Inspector's saying the conduit installation doesn't match the updated specs. I followed the specs exactly. I know you did, but there was an amendment filed last week, something about fire code changes. The inspector says we need to redo it. Ethan looked at the revised plans Hendricks pushed across the desk. The changes were minor, but would require pulling apart work they'd already completed. Days of labor, thousands in materials. This is going to put us behind schedule, Ethan said. I'm aware, which is why I need you and your crew working doubles until we catch up, starting tonight. I can't do tonight. Maya's got Cole. Hendricks' voice went flat. I don't want to hear about Maya. I need you here. This job is already on thin ice with the client. We miss this deadline. We don't get paid. Sterling Enterprises doesn't get paid, and they're the ones funding this whole project. So unless you want to explain to them why we're late, you're working doubles. The irony wasn't lost on Ethan. Victoria's company was funding the building he was working on. She was indirectly his boss's boss's boss. Fine, he said. I'll find someone to watch Maya. Good. And Cole, I need you focused. Whatever's going on in your personal life, leave it there. I can't have you distracted. Ethan left the office feeling like the walls were closing in. He called Jenny's mom, begged a favor. She agreed to take Maya after school, keep her through dinner. Ethan would pick her up by 9. The double shift was brutal. 12 hours of pulling conduit, rerouting electrical, fixing someone else's interpretation of specs that had changed after the work began. By the time Ethan finished, his hands were cramping and his back felt like someone had taken a hammer to it. He picked up Maya at 9:17. She was already half asleep, curled up on Jenny's couch. Jenny's mom gave him a look that was pure sympathy and judgment mixed together. "This can't keep happening, Ethan." "I know, it won't. Just had an emergency at work." "You say that every time." She was right. He did. Because there was always an emergency, always something that needed fixing, always one more thing that couldn't wait. He carried Maya to the truck, buckled her in. She woke up enough to mumble something about being hungry. "We'll get you something at home, baby. You said we'd make cookies tonight." Hattie? Ethan tried to remember through the fog of exhaustion. "Tomorrow, okay? Promise." "You always say tomorrow." The accusation in her sleepy voice cut deeper than it should have, because she was right about that too. He was always saying tomorrow, next week, when things slow down. But things never slowed down. They got home at 9:45. Ethan made Maya a peanut butter sandwich, watched her eat half of it before she gave up. He got her into pajamas, brushed her teeth, tucked her in. "Dad?" Her voice was small in the dark. "Yeah? Are you mad at me?" The question hit like a physical blow. "What? No, baby. Why would I be mad at you? You seem mad. You're always tired and you work all the time and we never do fun stuff anymore." Ethan sat on the edge of her bed, throat tight. "I'm not mad at you, not even a little bit. I'm working hard so we can have a good life, you know? So you can have the things you need." "I don't need things. I just want you." 6 years old and already smarter than he'd ever be. Ethan kissed her forehead. "I know. I'm going to do better, okay? I promise." "You say that too. This time I mean it." She was asleep before he left the room. Ethan stood in the hallway, listening to her breathe, wondering when he'd become the kind of father who made promises he couldn't keep. His phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. He almost deleted it without reading, but something made him look. "I'm sorry, you were right. I overstepped, and I won't do it again. But for what it's worth, you're a good father. Maya's lucky to have you. V." Ethan stared at the message, wanted to delete it, wanted to respond, wanted to throw his phone out the window and pretend none of this had ever happened. Instead, he just stood there, holding the phone, feeling the weight of everything pressing down until he could barely breathe. The next 3 weeks were hell. Double shifts became the norm. The electrical rework took longer than expected. Then they found issues with the HVAC installation on floors 6 and 7. Hendricks was on everyone's backs. The client was threatening to pull funding, and rumors started circulating that heads were going to roll if they didn't get back on schedule. Ethan barely saw Maya. He left before she woke up, came home after she was asleep. Jenny's mom helped when she could, but even her patience had limits. Ethan started paying a neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez from 2A, to watch Maya in the evenings. $20 a night he didn't have, but what choice did he have? Maya started acting out. Small things at first, refusing to do homework, talking back, crying over nothing. Her teacher sent home a note asking if everything was okay at home. Ethan read it at 11 p.m., sitting in his truck in the construction site parking lot, and wanted to scream. Everything was not okay at home. Nothing was okay. His truck's check engine light came on. He ignored it. The furnace started making a sound like a dying animal. He ignored that too. The credit card bill arrived, bigger than last month and the month before. He paid the minimum and tried not to think about the interest. On a Friday night in late October, Ethan got home at midnight to find Mrs. Rodriguez waiting in the hallway, Maya asleep in her apartment. "Mr. Cole, we need to talk." Ethan's heart sank. "Is Maya okay?" "She's fine physically. But Ethan, and I'm going to be blunt because someone needs to, this isn't working. That little girl is hurting. She cried for an hour tonight because she missed you. She asked me if you still loved her." The words were a knife, so of course I love her. "Then act like it. I don't care how important your job is. She's 6. She needs her father." "I'm doing the best I can." "Your best isn't good enough." Mrs. Rodriguez's voice was gentle but firm. "And I can't keep doing this. I'm sorry, Ethan. But after tonight, you need to find someone else. This is too much." She went back into her apartment, closing the door softly. Ethan stood in the hallway, feeling like he'd been gutted. He collected Maya, carried her back to their apartment, laid her in bed. Then he sat at the kitchen table and put his head in his hands. The business card was still in the drawer. He'd looked at it 100 times over the past month. Always put it back. Always told himself he didn't need it. But Mrs. Rodriguez was right. What he was doing wasn't working, wasn't sustainable. He was failing Maya in the name of providing for her, which was the stupidest kind of failure there was. Ethan pulled out his phone, unblocked Victoria's number, stared at it for 10 minutes. Then he called. She answered on the first ring, voice alert despite the late hour. Ethan? Yeah. Is everything all right? It's after midnight. No, everything's not all right. He took a breath. That job you offered, back in September, is it still available? Silence. Then, yes, absolutely yes. I need better hours. I need to be able to pick Maya up from school, be home for dinner. I can't keep doing doubles and weekends. Done. The position comes with flexible scheduling. You'd have autonomy to build your own team, set reasonable hours. And the salary you mentioned, that was real? Every word, $250,000, plus benefits, health insurance, dental, vision, education fund for Maya, 4 weeks paid vacation. It was too much, too good. But Ethan was drowning and Victoria was throwing him a rope. Why? He asked. Why do you want to help me so badly? Victoria was quiet for a long moment. Because when I was in that car, upside down, bleeding, I thought I was going to die. And my last thought wasn't about my company or my money or any of the things I'd spent my life building. It was that I was going to die alone and nobody would really care. Then you showed up. You risked your life for a stranger, asked for nothing in return, and reminded me that there are still people in this world who do the right thing just because it's right. I can't stop thinking about that, about you, about what it means. I'm not special, Victoria. That's where you're wrong. You're the most special person I've met in years. And I know you don't trust me. I know you think there's an angle here, but there isn't. I just want to help. Please let me. Ethan thought about Maya asking if he still loved her, about Mrs. Rodriguez's disappointed face, about promises he kept breaking and the life he was trying to build that kept crumbling. Okay, he said. Okay, I'll take the job. Thank you. Victoria sounded relieved, actually relieved. Can you come by my office Monday morning? We'll get the paperwork started, discuss the project details. Yeah, Monday works. Ethan, you're doing the right thing for you and for Maya. I hope so. He hung up and sat there in his dark kitchen, wondering if he'd just made the best decision of his life, or the worst mistake. Monday morning, Ethan walked into Sterling Enterprises headquarters wearing the only suit he owned, bought for his wife's funeral and not touched since. It still fit, barely. The building was downtown, glass and steel, the kind of place where even the elevators felt expensive. Victoria's office was on the 30th floor. Her assistant, a woman in her 30s with the kind of efficiency that came from years of practice, showed him in. The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, furniture that probably cost more than Ethan's truck, art on the walls that he couldn't identify but assumed was important. Victoria stood when he entered, coming around her desk with her hand extended. Ethan, thank you for coming. She looked different here, more formal. Hair up, suit perfectly tailored, every inch the CEO. But when she shook his hand, her grip was warm and her smile seemed genuine. Have a seat. She gestured to a conference table in the corner. Coffee? Water? I'm good. They sat across from each other. Victoria pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. This is the project. Mixed-use development, 30 stories. Residential units on floors 15 through 30, commercial space below. We break ground in January, projected completion in 26 months. You'd be overseeing all construction operations, crews, scheduling, quality control, client interface, everything. Ethan opened the folder. The renderings were impressive, modern design, lots of glass, rooftop gardens, the kind of building that would redefine a neighborhood. This is a big project. It's a $200 million project. I need someone I trust running it. You don't trust me. You barely know me. I know enough. And I've done my research. Your work record is flawless. Your crews respect you. Inspectors sign off on your jobs without complaints. You're exactly what I need. Ethan flipped through the specs, the timelines, the budget breakdowns. It was legitimate, not a favor disguised as a job, but actual work that needed doing. When do I start? Whenever you're ready. 2 weeks' notice for your current employer is standard, but if you need more time to transition, 2 weeks is fine. Ethan closed the folder. But I need something clear up front. This is just a job. Professional, nothing personal. I work for you, you pay me. That's the relationship. Are we clear? Something flickered in Victoria's expression. Hurt, maybe. Or disappointment. Crystal clear. Good. Because if this becomes something else, if you start trying to fix my life or get involved with Maya or... I won't, I promise. She pulled out another document. This is the contract. Take it home, read it thoroughly. Have a lawyer look at it if you want. I'll cover the legal fees. Ethan took the contract. It was thick, probably 40 pages. I don't have a lawyer. Then I'll recommend one. Someone independent, not connected to Sterling Enterprises. They'll review everything, make sure you're protected. Why would you do that? Because I want you to feel comfortable. I want this to work, Ethan, for both of us. The sincerity in her voice was hard to argue with. Ethan nodded, tucked the contract under his arm. I'll read it this week. Let you know by Friday. Perfect. Victoria stood, extending her hand again. I'm glad you called, Ethan. I know this wasn't easy for you. No, it wasn't. For what it's worth, I think you're making the right choice. Ask me again in 6 months. Her laugh was soft. Deal. Ethan left the office feeling lighter than he had in weeks. Took the elevator down, walked through the lobby, pushed through the glass doors into late October sunshine that felt almost warm. His phone rang. Tommy. Where are you, man? Hendricks is looking for you. Had an appointment. I'll be there in 20. Everything okay? Yeah, Ethan said, surprising himself by meaning it. Everything's going to be okay. He hung up and headed for his truck, contract tucked under his arm, feeling like maybe, just maybe, things were about to change. That night, after Maya was asleep, Ethan read the contract cover to cover. Then he read it again. The lawyer Victoria recommended called Tuesday morning, went through every clause, every provision. It was clean. Fair. Better than fair, actually. The terms were weighted in Ethan's favor in ways that didn't make sense unless Victoria really was just trying to help. Ethan signed it Friday morning in Victoria's office, gave Hendricks his notice Friday afternoon. Hendricks was pissed, threatened to withhold Ethan's last paycheck over the short notice, but ultimately there was nothing he could do. You're making a mistake, Cole, Hendricks said. Sterling's going to chew you up and spit you out. Maybe, Ethan agreed, but it's my mistake to make. His last day was the second Friday in November. His crew took him out for beers after work, gave him shit about going corporate, wished him luck. Tommy pulled him aside in the parking lot. You sure about this? No, Ethan admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. That Sterling woman, she's the one from the accident, isn't she? Ethan didn't answer, didn't need to. Tommy whistled low. Man, I hope you know what you're getting into. Me too. They shook hands. Ethan went home, told Maya about the new job. She was excited about the idea of him being home more, didn't care about the details. They celebrated with pizza and a movie, and for the first time in months, Ethan felt like maybe he was doing something right. Monday morning, he started at Sterling Enterprises. New office, new crew, new challenges. Victoria gave him space, let him work without hovering. They had weekly meetings to discuss progress, kept things professional. But sometimes Ethan would look up and catch her watching him through the glass wall that separated his office from hers. And in those moments, he'd wonder if he'd really set boundaries or just drawn lines she was patiently waiting to cross. The first month was smooth enough that Ethan started to relax. Victoria kept her distance, their interactions limited to weekly progress meetings, and the occasional email about budget approvals. The project team respected him. The work was challenging but manageable, and for the first time in years, Ethan was home for dinner every night. Maya noticed. She talked more, laughed more, stopped asking if he was mad at her. They made the cookies he'd promised, burned the first batch, and turned it into a game. She started doing better in school. Her teacher sent home a note commenting on the improvement. Ethan should have known it was too good to last. The meeting was scheduled for a Thursday afternoon in mid-December. Client relations, Victoria's assistant said. Nothing unusual. But when Ethan walked into the conference room, Victoria was already there with 3 people he didn't recognize. Expensive suits, confident postures. Board members, he realized. Ethan, thank you for joining us. Victoria's smile was professional, giving nothing away. This is Robert Chen, Patricia Moore, and David Castellano. They're on Sterling's board of directors. Ethan shook hands, took a seat. The atmosphere felt wrong, too formal, too careful. Robert Chen spoke first. Mr. Cole, we've been reviewing the Riverside project. Your progress reports are impressive. Thank you. We're particularly interested in how you managed to bring the electrical work back on schedule after the code revisions. That was a significant challenge. Just good crew management. We ran some longer days, reorganized the workflow. Patricia Moore leaned forward. And Ms. Sterling had no involvement in those decisions? The question landed oddly. Ethan glanced at Victoria, but her expression was neutral. No, that was my call entirely. I see. Patricia made a note on her tablet. And the budget overruns on the foundation work. Those were also your decisions? There weren't any overruns. We came in under budget. According to the original projections, yes. But the revised budget Ms. Sterling approved was 30% higher than necessary. Ethan looked at Victoria again. This time she was looking at him, and something in her eyes was a warning. I wasn't aware of any revised budget. I worked from the original numbers. Interesting. David Castellano's voice was smooth, practiced. So Ms. Sterling allocated additional funds without your knowledge or request. This wasn't a meeting, it was an interrogation, and Ethan was somehow in the middle of something he didn't understand. I don't know what this is about, Ethan said carefully. But whatever budget decisions were made, they didn't affect the actual work. We're on schedule, under budget, and the quality is solid. If there's a problem with how funds were allocated, that's between you and Victoria. Oh, there's definitely a problem. Robert Chen's smile was cold. Ms. Sterling has a history of using company resources for personal interests. We're simply trying to determine if the Riverside project is another example of that pattern. Ethan's stomach dropped. They were accusing Victoria of what? Embezzlement? Misuse of funds? And they thought Ethan was somehow part of it. I'm just the construction manager, Ethan said. I do my job. I don't get involved in corporate politics. But you do have a personal relationship with Ms. Sterling, correct? The room went very quiet. Ethan could feel Victoria's tension from across the table, could see the trap closing around both of them. No, Ethan said. We have a professional relationship. I work for her. That's it. Really? Patricia pulled out a folder. Because our investigation shows that Ms. Sterling paid your daughter's medical bills in October, that she offered you a position at significantly above market rate, that she's been, shall we say, unusually invested in your welfare. Ethan's jaw tightened. She paid one medical bill because she was grateful I pulled her out of a burning car. The job offer was legitimate. I'm qualified for the position, and I'm doing the work. And her being invested in employee welfare seems like good management, not a crime. Unless the employee is receiving special treatment, David said. Unless company funds are being diverted to benefit someone the CEO has a personal interest in. That's not what's happening. Isn't it? Robert leaned back. You're being paid $250,000 for a job that typically pays half that. Your daughter's school received a $50,000 grant from a Sterling Foundation the week after you started. Your apartment building was recently purchased by a Sterling subsidiary, and your rent was reduced by 30%. Should I continue? Each fact was a hammer blow. Ethan looked at Victoria, who was staring at the table, her face carefully blank. She'd done all of it. Behind his back, around his boundaries, she'd been fixing his life piece by piece. I didn't know about any of that, Ethan said. His voice sounded hollow in his own ears. We believe you, Patricia said, and somehow that was worse. We don't think you're complicit. We think you're being used. Ms. Sterling has a pattern of boundary issues, of making decisions based on emotion rather than business sense. This is just the latest example. Victoria finally spoke. That's enough. Mr. Cole isn't part of this conversation. This is between me and the board. Actually, he is part of it. Robert's smile was thin. Because we need to know if we can trust the Riverside project to continue under current management or if we need to make changes. Changes? Ethan found his voice. What kind of changes? That depends on what you tell us. Are you comfortable continuing in your current position, knowing that Ms. Sterling has been manipulating circumstances behind the scenes? Or would you prefer to step away? Let us bring in someone without the complicated history? It was a test. They were testing his loyalty, his integrity, seeing if he'd throw Victoria under the bus to save himself. Ethan stood up. I think I'm done with this meeting. Mr. Cole? No. You want to know if I can do my job? Look at the project. Look at the numbers. Look at the work. That's your answer. Whatever else is going on between Victoria and the board, it's not my business. I was hired to build a building, and that's what I'm doing. He walked out before anyone could respond, made it to his office, closed the door, and stood there trying to process what had just happened. Victoria appeared 10 minutes later. She didn't knock, just walked in and closed the door behind her. I'm sorry, she said. You bought my building. Yes. You gave Maya's school $50,000. Yes. You've been fixing my life behind my back for 2 months. Yes. Victoria's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. I'm sorry. I know I promised I wouldn't, but I couldn't help it. I saw problems I could solve, and I solved them. That's what I do. That's not what you do. That's what you're hiding behind. Ethan's anger was cold, controlled. You're lonely, Victoria. You're desperate for connection, and instead of dealing with that like a normal person, you're trying to buy your way into my life. The words landed like physical blows. Victoria flinched, actually flinched. That's not fair, isn't it? Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me you didn't orchestrate all of this. The job, the rent reduction, the school grant, because you're trying to make yourself indispensable to me. I was trying to help. No, you were trying to control. There's a difference. Ethan grabbed his jacket. I need to go. I need to think. Ethan, please. What do you want from me, Victoria? He stopped at the door, turned to face her. Really? What is this about? She opened her mouth, closed it. For the first time since he'd met her, Victoria Sterling looked completely lost. I don't know, she said finally. I just know that when I'm around you, I feel like a person instead of a position. And I haven't felt like that in so long I forgot what it was like. The honesty was devastating. Ethan could see her there, stripped of all the armor she wore, just a woman who'd built everything and ended up with nothing. You can't buy that, he said quietly. You can't fix your way into feeling human. It doesn't work like that. Then how does it work? I don't know, but not like this. He left, drove around for an hour trying to sort through his anger and confusion and the uncomfortable empathy he felt for someone who had everything except what actually mattered. He picked up Maya from school, took her for ice cream even though it was cold, and she'd probably spoil her dinner. She chattered about her day, oblivious to the storm churning in his head. Dad? You're being quiet. Just thinking, baby. About what? How to explain that someone had been secretly fixing their lives? That his boss had crossed every boundary he'd set because she didn't know how else to connect with people? That he was angry and grateful and confused all at the same time? Grown-up stuff, he said instead. Nothing for you to worry about. That night, after Maya was asleep, Ethan pulled out his laptop and started researching. If Victoria's board was investigating her, there had to be a reason. He found it in a business journal article from 6 months ago. Sterling Enterprises was in trouble. The aggressive expansion Victoria had pushed for was overextended. Several projects had gone over budget, returns weren't meeting projections, and the board wanted her out. They'd been building a case for months, documenting every questionable decision, every unorthodox move, and Ethan had walked right into the middle of it. His phone rang. Victoria. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. I'm not calling to apologize again, she said before he could speak. I'm calling to tell you the truth. All of it. I'm listening. The board wants me gone. They have for over a year. They think I'm reckless, emotional, bad for business. And they're not completely wrong. I've made decisions based on instinct instead of data. I've invested in projects that didn't make financial sense because I believed in them. I've broken rules because I thought the rules were stupid. Okay. And yes, I helped you. I paid the medical bill. I bought your building. I funded the school grant. I did all of it because I wanted to, because I could, and because it felt like the first good thing I'd done in years that wasn't about profit margins or market share. Victoria, let me finish. The board is going to use you against me. They're going to say, I misused company funds, that I let personal feelings compromise my judgment. And they're right, I did. But I don't regret it. You saved my life, Ethan, not just in the accident. You reminded me that there's more to existence than winning, and I'm sorry if that's too much, if it's uncomfortable, but it's true. Ethan sat there, phone pressed to his ear, listening to her breathe on the other end of the line. What do you want me to do? He asked. Nothing. Just keep doing your job. The Riverside project is legitimate. The best work Sterling Enterprises has done in years. Let that speak for itself. And you? What are you going to do? Fight, like I always do. The board thinks they can push me out, but they're forgetting who built this company. I did, from nothing, and I'm not going down without making them work for it. There was steel in her voice now, the CEO coming back to the surface. But underneath it, Ethan could still hear the lonely woman who didn't know how to ask for what she needed. Victoria, can I ask you something? Anything. When was the last time you had a friend? Not an employee, not a business associate, an actual friend. Silence. Long enough that Ethan thought she'd hung up. I don't remember, she said finally. High school, maybe? Before I learned that everyone wants something. Not everyone. No? I don't want anything from you. I just want you to stop trying to fix everything. Stop treating people like problems to solve. You want to connect? Then be present. Be honest. Be someone I can actually talk to instead of someone who's 3 moves ahead trying to orchestrate outcomes. I don't know how to do that. Then learn. Because this, what you're doing now, it's not working. You're pushing people away by pulling them too close. Another long silence. Then, will you help me? Learn, I mean. I'm not a therapist. Victoria. I know, but you're real, and I need real right now. Ethan closed his eyes, feeling the weight of what she was asking. It would be easier to walk away, to take the job and keep the distance, and let her fight her battles alone. But he'd seen her stripped down to nothing, seen the person underneath the power, and he couldn't unsee it. Okay, he said. But we do this my way. No more fixing my life. No more grand gestures. If we're going to be friends, actual friends, then we start from scratch. Equal footing. I don't know how to be on equal footing with people. Then that's the first thing you learn. Victoria's laugh was shaky. You know, most people wouldn't take this on. They'd run the other direction. Yeah, well, I'm starting to think I'm not most people. No, you're really not. They hung up. Ethan sat there in his quiet apartment, wondering what the hell he'd just agreed to. Wondering if Victoria Sterling was capable of change, or if this was just going to end badly for both of them. The board meeting happened 2 weeks later. Victoria called Ethan the night before, her voice tight. They're voting tomorrow. Whether to remove me as CEO. How are you feeling? Terrified, angry, determined? A pause. All of the above. You're going to be fine. You don't know that. No, but I believe it anyway. You built that company, Victoria. They can't take that away from you. They can, actually. That's exactly what they're trying to do. Ethan wished he had something better to offer than platitudes. Then fight. Make them regret trying. I intend to. Her voice softened. Ethan, thank you for not walking away, for not making this easy on yourself. Yeah, well, I've never been good at easy. The vote was scheduled for 2 p.m. Ethan tried to focus on work but kept checking his phone. 3 o'clock came and went. 4, 5. At 6:47 p.m., Victoria appeared in his office doorway. She looked exhausted, her suit wrinkled, makeup faded, but she was smiling. I won. Ethan stood up. You won? Barely. 7 votes to 5, but I won. She leaned against the doorframe. They wanted me to step down voluntarily, make it clean. I told them to go to hell. That's very professional of you. I was actually much less polite than that. Victoria laughed, and it sounded almost giddy. I presented them with the Riverside project numbers, showed them what you've accomplished in 2 months, told them if they wanted to call that poor judgment, they could explain it to the shareholders. You used my work to save your job. I used good work to prove I make good decisions. There's a difference. She stepped into the office. And I meant what I said, about starting over, about being friends instead of whatever complicated mess this was becoming. Are you sure? Because friends don't usually investigate each other's entire lives and buy their apartment buildings. Ex-friends who are trying to do better, Victoria corrected. I'm a work in progress. Aren't we all? She held out her hand. So, friends? Ethan looked at her hand, then at her face, saw the vulnerability there, the genuine desire to be something other than what she'd always been. Against his better judgment, he took her hand and shook it. Friends. But I'm setting rules. Of course you are. No more fixing my life without asking. No more grand gestures. And if you're going to do something that affects Maya, you run it by me first. Those are non-negotiable. Agreed. Victoria's grip was firm. Anything else? Yeah. You have to actually spend time with people if you want to be friends with them. Not just email, not just business meetings. Actual time. What does that look like? Ethan thought about it. Maya's got a winter concert next week. School thing. You could come to that. Victoria blinked. You want me to come to a 6-year-old's school concert? That's what friends do. They show up for things. I don't know anything about kids. Neither did I when Maya was born. You figure it out. Ethan grabbed his jacket. Thursday at 7, Ridgemont Elementary. Don't be late and don't bring any gifts. Just show up. Okay. Victoria looked genuinely nervous. Okay, I can do that. Good. Now go home. Get some sleep. You look like you've been through a war. I have been, and I won. But she was already heading for the door, and when she turned back, her smile was different, less controlled, more real. Thank you, Ethan, for giving me a chance to be better. Don't thank me yet. You haven't survived an elementary school winter concert. She left. Ethan packed up his own things, heading home to Maya and dinner and homework and all the small, normal things that made up a life. Thursday came. Ethan arrived at the school early, saving seats in the back row. The auditorium filled up with parents and siblings, everyone armed with phones ready to record their kids' 3 minutes of stage time. Victoria showed up at 6:58 wearing jeans and a sweater, looking completely out of place and uncomfortable. She spotted Ethan and made her way over, sitting down carefully. I've never been to one of these, she whispered. It's pretty straightforward. Kids sing, parents clap. Everyone pretends the singing was good. That seems harsh. Wait until you hear it. The concert was exactly what elementary school concerts always were. Enthusiastic, off-key, and somehow charming anyway. Maya was in the front row, singing her heart out, getting about half the words right. Ethan recorded it on his phone, knowing he'd watch it later and feel proud despite the musical chaos. Victoria sat beside him, rigid at first, then gradually relaxing. When Maya waved at them from the stage, Victoria waved back, and something in her expression softened. After the concert, Maya ran over, still wearing her construction paper snowflake headband. Did you see me? Did I do good? You were perfect, baby. Ethan hugged her. Best singer up there. Maya looked at Victoria. Who's this? This is Victoria. She's a friend from work. Hi, Maya. Victoria looked genuinely uncertain how to interact with a 6-year-old. You have a very nice voice. Thanks. Did you really think so? Because Dad always says I'm good, but he has to say that. Victoria's smile was small but real. I really think so. Do you want to come get ice cream with us? We always get ice cream after concerts. Ethan hadn't planned on inviting Victoria, but Maya was already looking at her expectantly, and saying no would require explanation. If that's okay with your dad? Victoria said carefully. Ethan nodded. Sure. Ice cream. They ended up at the same shop Ethan always took Maya to, a local place with too many flavors and sticky tables. Maya ordered her usual, chocolate with gummy bears, and peppered Victoria with questions while they waited. Do you have kids? No. Do you have a dog? No. Do you like unicorns? I don't know much about them. They're magical horses with horns. They're the best. Dad says they're not real, but I think maybe they are and we just haven't found them yet. Victoria looked at Ethan, clearly out of her depth. He shrugged, offering no help. I think, Victoria said slowly, that believing in things is important, even if other people say they're not real. Maya beamed. Exactly. Dad, I like her. They sat in a booth, Maya between them, talking nonstop about her concert and school and her friend Jenny's birthday party that was coming up. Victoria listened, asked questions, actually seemed interested in what a 6-year-old had to say. Ethan watched the two of them, feeling something shift. This was Victoria without the armor, without the power plays, just a woman eating ice cream and listening to a child talk about unicorns. And she looked, for the first time since he'd known her, almost content. They drove Victoria back to her car afterward. Maya fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from her big night. Thank you for inviting me, Victoria said quietly. I can't remember the last time I did something like that. Like what? Just normal life stuff. It's nice. Yeah, it is. Ethan glanced at Maya in the rearview mirror. You did good tonight. Maya liked you. She's wonderful. You're raising her well. I'm trying. He pulled up next to Victoria's car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than most people made in a year. Same time next week? There's a park we go to on Saturdays. You could join us if you want. Victoria looked surprised. Really? Friends show up, remember? That's the rule. Right, friends show up. She got out of the car, then leaned back in through the window. Ethan, I'm going to screw this up, probably multiple times. I'm not good at normal. Nobody is. That's what makes it normal. She smiled, really smiled, and drove away. Ethan sat there for a minute, watching her taillights disappear, wondering what he'd gotten himself into, and if Victoria Sterling was capable of being the friend she wanted to be. He'd find out soon enough. Saturday morning came with rain, the kind that turned the city gray and made everything feel smaller. Ethan texted Victoria at 8, half expecting her to cancel. Still on for the park? Weather's not great. Her reply came back in 30 seconds. I bought an umbrella specifically for this. See you at 10. The image of Victoria Sterling shopping for an umbrella made Ethan smile despite himself. He got Maya ready, bundled in her raincoat and boots, excited because puddles meant splashing. They met at Riverside Park under the pavilion. Victoria showed up wearing expensive rain gear that looked like it had never seen actual rain, holding a large golf umbrella that could have sheltered a family of 4. You weren't kidding about the umbrella, Ethan said. I don't kid about preparation. But she was smiling, nervous energy radiating off her. What do we do at parks in the rain? We improvise. Maya grabbed Victoria's hand without asking, pulling her toward the playground. Come on, I'll show you the good puddles. Victoria looked at Ethan, panicked. He just shrugged. She's 6, just go with it. Bo, Michem. What followed was an hour of Victoria Sterling, CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, being dragged through puddles by a first grader who had opinions about which ones made the best splash. Victoria's expensive boots got soaked. Her jeans were muddy to the knees, and she was laughing in a way that sounded rusty, like she'd forgotten how. Ethan watched from the pavilion, drinking coffee from the thermos he'd brought, feeling something complicated settle in his chest. This was what Victoria had been missing. Not the puddles specifically, but the permission to be ridiculous, to do something pointless and messy just because it felt good. Maya eventually wore herself out. They sat on the pavilion bench, all 3 of them damp and cold, sharing the hot chocolate Ethan had packed. That was fun, Maya announced. Victoria, you're really good at splashing. Thank you. I had an excellent teacher. Can you come every Saturday? Victoria glanced at Ethan. If your dad says it's okay. We'll see, Ethan said, which was parent code for, probably yes, but I need you to stop asking. Maya accepted this and went back to the playground, staying close enough that Ethan could see her, but far enough to feel independent. She's great. Victoria said quietly. You're lucky. I know. Do you ever get scared that you're going to mess her up somehow? The honesty caught him off guard. Every single day. I'm just one person trying to be two parents. Some days I feel like I'm barely keeping it together. You make it look easy. That's because you only see the edited version. You don't see the mornings when I burn breakfast and we're late to school. Or the nights when she has nightmares about her mom and I don't know what to say. Or the times when I wonder if I'm doing any of this right. Victoria was quiet for a moment, watching Maya on the swings. Can I tell you something? And you can't use it against me in any future arguments. Okay. I'm jealous of what you have, this life you've built. It's messy and hard and probably terrifying half the time. But it's real. It matters. And I've spent 20 years building things that don't matter at all. Ethan looked at her, really looked, saw the crack in the facade, the woman underneath who'd traded everything for success and was just now realizing what that cost. It's not too late, he said, to build something that matters. Isn't it? I'm 43, Ethan. I've got a company that half my board wants to dismantle. No real friends, no family that speaks to me. I'm successful and completely alone. That's the trade I made. So unmake it. It's not that simple. Sure it is. You just decide what matters and start protecting that instead of protecting your empire. He gestured to Maya. You think I always knew how to do this? I was deployed overseas when my wife died. I came home to a toddler who didn't recognize me and a life I had no idea how to live. But I decided she mattered more than being scared, so I figured it out. You can too. What if I can't? Then you fail, and you try again. That's how it works. Ethan stood up. But you don't get to use fear as an excuse to not try. Maya, 5 more minutes. She waved acknowledgement and went back to climbing. Victoria sat there, processing. When she spoke again, her voice was smaller. I don't know how to fail. I've built my entire life around winning. Then it's time you learned. Failing doesn't mean you're weak, Victoria. It means you're human. She looked up at him, something shifting in her expression. How did you get so smart about this stuff? I'm not smart. I'm just tired enough to stop pretending I have all the answers. He checked his watch. Come on, Maya's birthday is next week. You're invited, but fair warning, it's going to be chaos. 6-year-olds, cake, probably tears over something stupid. I've survived hostile board meetings. I think I can handle a birthday party. Don't be so sure. The party was exactly the chaos Ethan predicted. 12 kids in their apartment, hopped up on sugar, playing games that made no sense, and had rules that changed every 30 seconds. Victoria showed up with a wrapped present, a science kit that was probably too advanced, but Maya loved anyway, and spent 2 hours helping referee musical chairs and pin the tail on the donkey. Ethan caught her in the kitchen during a brief lull, frosting smeared on her sleeve. You survived. Barely. But Victoria was smiling, genuine and unforced. This is insane. Welcome to parenting. How do you do this alone? I don't, not really. I've got Maya's school, the neighbors who help out, parents of her friends. It takes a village, like they say. I just had to learn to accept the help instead of being stubborn about doing everything myself. Victoria leaned against the counter. That's hard for you, isn't it? Accepting help. Yeah, but not as hard as screwing up my kid because I was too proud to ask for it. He handed her a paper towel for the frosting. Same applies to you, you know. You don't have to do everything alone. You've just convinced yourself you do. Old habits. Then make new ones. The party wound down. Parents collected their exhausted, sugar-crashed children. Maya fell asleep on the couch at 7, party hat still crooked on her head. Victoria helped Ethan clean up the disaster zone his apartment had become. Thank you for inviting me, Victoria said, tying off a trash bag. I can't remember the last time I went to a birthday party. You're welcome. And Victoria, you did good today. Maya told me you were her favorite helper. Something in Victoria's face crumpled just for a second. Really? Really? You're not as bad at this as you think you are. She left shortly after, but texted him later that night. Today was perfect. Thank you for letting me be part of it. Ethan stared at the message for a long time before responding. You're part of it now, whether you like it or not. The weeks that followed developed a rhythm. Victoria showed up for Saturday park trips. She came to Maya's soccer games, sitting in the cold bleachers with the other parents, cheering when Maya scored and commiserating when her team lost. She started joining them for Sunday dinners. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti or tacos or whatever Ethan could throw together after a long week. And slowly, carefully, Victoria started changing. It wasn't dramatic. She didn't quit her job or sell her company, but she started delegating more, trusting her team, leaving the office at reasonable hours. She stopped checking email during dinner. She asked questions instead of giving orders. She admitted when she didn't know something. The board noticed. Robert Chen cornered Ethan at a project site visit in February. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." Ethan looked up from the blueprints. "Excuse me?" "Victoria, she's different. Focused but not obsessive. Decisive but actually listening to input. The board is starting to trust her again." Robert's smile was thin. "I don't know what happened, but she's becoming the CEO we always needed her to be. Maybe she just needed someone to remind her she's human. Whatever the reason, it's working. The Riverside project is ahead of schedule, under budget, and the quality is exceptional. If she keeps this up, she might actually save the company." Marati Ishatur. Robert left. Ethan stood there, thinking about Victoria covered in mud from puddle jumping, Victoria helping with birthday party cleanup, Victoria learning to be a person instead of a position. That night he got a call from her. Not a text, an actual call, which usually meant something was wrong. "Hey, everything okay?" Victoria's voice was shaky. "Can I come over? I know it's late, but I need to talk to someone." "Yeah, of course. I'll put coffee on." She showed up 20 minutes later, still in her work clothes, makeup smudged like she'd been crying. Ethan let her in, poured coffee, waited. "The board offered me a deal," Victoria said finally. "They'll stop trying to remove me if I agree to step back, become chairman, bring in a new CEO to handle day-to-day operations. I'd still have influence but not control." "What did you say?" "I told them I'd think about it." She wrapped her hands around the coffee mug. "A year ago, I would have fought them, told them to go to hell, burned the whole thing down before I'd give up control. But now I'm sitting here wondering if maybe they're right. If maybe I've been holding on so tight that I'm strangling the thing I built. If maybe letting go would be the strongest thing I could do." Ethan sat across from her. "What do you want, Victoria? Not what's smart, not what's strategic. What do you actually want?" She looked at him with eyes that were lost and searching. "I want to keep coming to Maya's soccer games. I want to help with birthday parties and splash in puddles and have Sunday dinners where we talk about nothing important. I want to stop feeling like I'm going to disappear if I'm not winning all the time." "Then do it. Take the deal. Let someone else run the company. You built it. You don't have to sacrifice your life to keep it." "What if I become irrelevant? What if you become happy instead?" The question hung between them. Victoria's hands were shaking. She set down the coffee mug before she spilled it. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I've been running towards success for so long, I don't know who I am if I stop." "So find out. That's what the rest of us do. We figure it out as we go." "You make it sound easy." "It's not easy. It's terrifying, but it's better than the alternative." Ethan reached across the table, took her hand. "You've got people now, Victoria. You're not alone anymore. Whatever you decide, you've got support." She looked at their hands, then at him. "How did this happen? How did we get here?" "You pulled me out of a car. I invited you to a school concert. The rest just kind of followed." "That's not an answer." "Sure it is. Sometimes life doesn't make sense until you look back. You just have to trust that you're moving in the right direction." Victoria's laugh was wet. "You're annoyingly wise sometimes, you know that?" "I'm really not. I'm just a guy who's made enough mistakes to learn from them." She stayed for another hour, drinking coffee, talking about what stepping back might look like, what she'd do with actual free time, whether she could handle not being the center of everything. When she left, she hugged him at the door. Not a professional handshake, a real hug. Ethan hugged her back, feeling how tightly she was holding on, how much she needed this to be real. "Thank you," she said into his shoulder, "for not giving up on me. I didn't do anything special. You did." You showed up. You kept showing up even when I made it hard. That's everything. She pulled back, wiped her eyes. I'm going to take the deal. Step back. Let someone else run the day-to-day. I'll still be involved, still have influence, but I'll have my life back too. Good. Maya will be happy. She was asking when you'd come teach her to ride her bike. I don't know how to ride a bike. Then you'll learn together. That's kind of perfect, actually. Victoria smiled, real and unguarded. Yeah, it kind of is. The deal went through in March. Victoria stepped back to chairman, brought in a new CEO who was competent and boring and exactly what the board wanted. The transition was rocky. Victoria struggled with not controlling everything, had to learn to trust that the company wouldn't fall apart without her micromanaging every decision. But she did it, and slowly. Her life started looking different. She cut her hours from 70 a week to 40, started taking weekends off, joined Ethan and Maya for bike riding lessons in the park, all three of them wobbling and laughing and occasionally falling over. She came to Maya's school events, volunteered for field trips, became a familiar face in their small world. The Riverside project finished in May, 2 weeks ahead of schedule and 15% under budget. The opening ceremony was a big deal. Press coverage, city officials, the whole show. Victoria gave a speech about vision and execution, thanked her team. When it was over, she found Ethan in the crowd. We did it, she said. You did it. I just managed the construction. Don't do that. Don't diminish what you accomplished. This project saved my company, your work, your leadership. I couldn't have done this without you. Ethan looked at the building, glass and steel reaching into the sky, something permanent that would outlast both of them. It's good work. It's great work. And you're a great project manager, which is why I want to offer you something. Victoria, we talked about this. Not a favor, a partnership. I'm starting a new division, sustainable development, smaller projects with actual community impact. I want you to run it. Real title, real authority, chance to build things that matter. I already have a job. You have a job that you're overqualified for because you were too proud to ask for more. I'm offering you more. Not because I owe you, not because we're friends, because you're good at this and you deserve it. Ethan studied her face. She meant it. This wasn't charity or manipulation. It was respect. Can I think about it? Take all the time you need. Offer stands whenever you're ready. That night, Ethan talked it over with Maya. She was 7 now, getting tall, losing teeth, full of opinions about everything. So Victoria wants you to be her partner? Maya asked around a mouthful of pizza. Sort of. She wants me to run a new part of her company. Would you still have time for my stuff? That's the whole point. I'd have more time, better hours, more flexibility. Maya considered this seriously. Then you should do it. Victoria's nice, and she's getting better at bike riding. That's your criteria? She's getting better at bike riding? And she brings good snacks to soccer games, the organic kind that don't taste like cardboard. Ethan laughed. High praise. Dad? Maya's voice got quieter. Do you like Victoria? Of course I like her. She's my friend. No, I mean like. The way grown-ups do. The question caught him completely off guard. Why would you ask that? Because you smile different when she's around, and you laugh more. And sometimes I see you looking at her the way you look at pictures of Mom. Ethan's throat went tight. He'd been so careful, keeping everything professional, maintaining boundaries. But Maya saw what he hadn't wanted to admit to himself. It's complicated, baby. Why? Because Victoria's my boss. And my friend. And mixing those things up is messy. Everything's messy, Dad. You tell me that all the time. You say messy is okay. Yeah, but this is different. How? How to explain that he was terrified? That opening himself up to someone after losing his wife felt like standing on the edge of a cliff? That Victoria was brilliant and complicated and still figuring out how to be a real person, and getting involved romantically would change everything? I don't know if I'm ready, he said finally. Mom's only been gone 5 years. That's not very long. Maya climbed into his lap, too big for it really, but doing it anyway. Mom would want you to be happy. She told me once. You don't remember Mom telling you anything. You were too little. I remember feelings, and I remember she was nice and she smiled a lot and she loved us. So I think she'd want you to smile a lot too. Out of the mouths of 7-year-olds, Ethan hugged her tight, breathing in the kid's smell of shampoo and outside and growing up too fast. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just noticed. He took Victoria's offer the next week. The partnership made sense professionally, gave him exactly what he'd been wanting without realizing it. Meaningful work, reasonable hours, the chance to build things that actually mattered to communities instead of just profit margins. But he didn't say anything about the other thing, the complicated feelings that Maya had noticed and he'd been ignoring. That could wait, had to wait. Except Victoria wasn't making it easy. She started showing up in different ways, bringing coffee to site meetings with his order memorized, asking his opinion on decisions that didn't really need his input but including him anyway, staying late after Sunday dinners to help with dishes, their conversations stretching into topics that had nothing to do with work. One night in June, after Maya was asleep, they were in Ethan's kitchen cleaning up from dinner. Victoria was washing, Ethan drying, a rhythm they'd fallen into without discussing. "Can I ask you something personal?" Victoria said, not looking at him. "Depends on how personal. Why haven't you dated anyone?" "In the 5 years since your wife died." Ethan almost dropped the plate he was drying. "That's definitely personal." "I know, but I'm curious. You're a good man, Ethan. You're kind and smart and raising Maya beautifully. Why are you alone?" "I'm not alone. I have Maya. You know what I mean." He did. Ethan set down the plate, leaned against the counter. "Because it's easier. Because I don't have to risk losing someone again. Because I can focus on Maya and not worry about screwing up another relationship." That's fear talking, not logic. Maybe. But fear keeps you safe. Does it? Or does it just keep you lonely? The question hit too close. Ethan looked at her, really looked. Saw her standing there in his kitchen, dish soap on her hands, asking questions that mattered. "What about you?" he countered. "Why haven't you dated anyone?" "Because nobody wants to date someone who's married to their job. Or they did, but they wanted the money and access, not me. It's easier to just be alone." So we're both choosing easy over real. Apparently. Victoria dried her hands on a towel. "Ethan, I need to tell you something, and you can't interrupt until I'm done." "Okay. I think I'm falling for you. I don't know when it started, maybe the park, maybe the birthday party, maybe that first day when you walked away without wanting anything from me. But it's happening, and I don't know what to do about it because you're my friend and my partner and Maya's father, and risking all of that is terrifying, but not telling you is worse. So there it is. I'm falling for you, and I needed you to know." The silence that followed was deafening. Ethan's brain had stopped working somewhere around "falling for you" and hadn't restarted. "You can talk now," Victoria said, her voice small. "I don't know what to say." "Say something, anything. Even if it's that you don't feel the same way, just don't leave me hanging here." Ethan ran his hands through his hair, trying to organize thoughts that were scattering in every direction. "I'm scared, Victoria. Of this. Of what happens if we try and it doesn't work. Of losing what we have. I'm scared too. But I'm more scared of spending the rest of my life wondering what if. Maya adores me, and I adore her. That's not the problem." "Then what is?" "You. You're the problem. You're standing there terrified of being happy because being happy means being vulnerable, and you've decided vulnerable equals weak. That's not, it is. You've built this perfect little life where you control everything, where you can't get hurt because you're not letting anyone in. I was the same way. But Ethan, this," she gestured between them, "this is real. This is something good. And if you're too scared to try, then we're both going to end up exactly where we started. Successful and alone and pretending that's enough." She was right. He knew she was right, and he was still terrified. "What if I screw this up?" he asked quietly. "What if I'm not ready and I hurt you? Then you hurt me, and we figure it out. That's what people do." Victoria stepped closer. "I'm not asking for perfect, Ethan. I'm just asking for real, for a chance." Ethan looked at her, saw the woman who'd learned to splash in puddles, who'd helped with birthday parties, who'd stepped back from her empire to have an actual life, who was standing in his kitchen, vulnerable and hopeful, and asking for something he wasn't sure he could give. But Maya's voice echoed in his head. Everything's messy. Messy is okay. Okay, he said. Okay? Let's try. I don't know if I'm ready. I don't know if this will work, but you're right. I don't want to spend my life wondering what if. Victoria's smile was tentative, like she didn't quite believe it. Really? Really. But we go slow. We figure this out as we go. And if it doesn't work, it'll work. She took his hand. I'm choosing to believe it'll work. That's very optimistic for you. I'm learning from the best. He kissed her then, soft and careful, testing the waters. She kissed back, her hand coming up to cup his face, and it felt right in a way nothing had felt right in 5 years. When they pulled apart, Victoria was crying. Happy tears, she clarified. I didn't know I could do those. You're full of surprises, says the man who just kissed me in his kitchen after making me wait 6 months. I like to take my time. I noticed. They stood there holding hands, both of them smiling like idiots. From the hallway came a small voice. Finally! I thought you guys would never figure it out. Maya was standing in her pajamas, looking smug. How long have you been listening? Ethan asked. Long enough. Can Victoria be my bonus mom now? Maya, Ethan started. I know, slow, figuring it out. But I'm just saying, if we're going to do this, I want her at all the important stuff. School plays, soccer games, the works. Victoria was crying again. You want me at all that? Duh! You're good at snacks, and you don't yell embarrassing stuff from the bleachers like some of the other parents. Maya yawned. Now can I go back to bed? I'm tired. Yeah, baby, back to bed. Maya hugged Victoria on her way past. Welcome to the family. It's messy, but it's good. She disappeared down the hall. Victoria looked at Ethan, laughing and crying at the same time. Your daughter just adopted me. She tends to make her own decisions about people. I love her. I love you. I'm terrified and happy, and I don't know what I'm doing. That makes 2 of us. Ethan pulled her close, but we'll figure it out, together. And they did. Not perfectly. They had fights about boundaries and work-life balance, and how much help was too much help. Victoria backslid into trying to fix everything with money, and Ethan had to remind her that problems weren't transactions. Ethan sometimes shut down when things got emotional, and Victoria had to learn to be patient while he processed. But they showed up for each other. Victoria came to soccer games and school events. Ethan supported her through board meetings and company transitions. They made space for each other in their lives, awkward and messy and real. Maya thrived. Having another adult in her life who loved her unconditionally gave her confidence she hadn't had before. She stopped worrying about whether Ethan had enough time, because Victoria picked up the slack without making it feel like a burden. 6 months after that first kiss, Victoria moved in. Not into Ethan's cramped apartment, into a house they picked out together. 3 bedrooms, a yard for Maya to play in, space for all of them to breathe. A year after that, on a Saturday morning in the park, where they'd splashed in puddles and learned to ride bikes, Ethan asked Victoria to marry him. She said yes before he finished the question, then laughed at herself for being so eager. Maya was the flower girl at the wedding. Small ceremony, just people who mattered. Afterward, they went for ice cream, still in their wedding clothes, acting like it was just another Saturday. Because in a way, it was. Just another day in the life they'd built together, messy and imperfect, and full of the small moments that actually mattered. Victoria still ran her company, but from a distance that let her breathe. Ethan still built buildings, but ones that made communities better instead of just making money. Maya grew up watching 2 people who'd been broken separately learn to be whole together. Years later, when people asked Victoria about the accident, about the man who'd pulled her from the burning car, she'd smile and say it was the best thing that ever happened to her. Not because she needed saving, but because she'd learned the difference between being rescued and being seen. And Ethan, when asked about the woman who'd paid his daughter's medical bills and changed his life, would say she taught him that accepting help wasn't weakness, that letting people in was strength, that sometimes the bravest thing you could do was admit you couldn't do it all alone. The truth was simpler than either explanation. They'd saved each other. Not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 small ones. Puddles and birthday parties and Sunday dinners. Coffee orders remembered and showing up when it mattered. Learning that love wasn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It was about choosing, every day, to be present, to be real, to build something that mattered more than success or control or safety. They'd walked away from who they'd been and walked toward each other instead. And in the space between, they'd found what they'd both been missing all along, a life defined not by what they owned or achieved, but by who they chose to be for each other. In the end, that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.